Good evening, Adenola. My name is Michael Boyo. What's your understanding of this role, IT business line advisory? What's your understanding?
So, thank you for this question. So, my understanding about this role is standing as a bridge between the stakeholder and the technical team to understand the business needs and translate those needs into technical solutions to the stakeholder.
Okay, that's a fair high level assessment of what the role is. Okay,
Okay.
so to make an information sure that information is already collected on these are identified on that. Okay, all right. So okay, let's look at it this way. So let's start from the very basics.
Okay.
So let's assume that I'm your interviewer on Wednesday and I just ask you the question. Can you please introduce yourself to me, Adenola?
Okay. Thank you for that question. My name is Adinola. You can call me Adi. I'm a versatile and dedicated business analyst with over 10 years industry knowledge. And within the last 2 years, I focus on sales first. Um, I have the Can I start again? So my name is Adinola. I'm a versatile and details Salesforce business analyst with over 10 years industry experience in multiple industry. In the last 3 years, I focused on Salesforce, a Salesforce ecosystem, and my primary role is to translate business needs and to translate business need into technical solution. I currently work with a healthcare company, and my day-to-day activities include requirement gathering, elicitation, documentation of requirement from the stakeholder, and translating those needs into technical solution. I also collaborate with a team of seven professional team member, which include the developer, the scrum master, the project manager, the architect, the QA, to help to translate those needs into technical solutions. I'm currently a Salesforce certified. I have for 4 times certified with Salesforce admin, Service Cloud, and Hub Builder. And also, I'm a certified Scrum Master and have a master degree in business administration. And also, one thing, my strong skill set include good communication skills, ability to communicate with my stakeholder to understand their needs, and also with my team member. And also, my strength is being attentive to details and also active listening. So I'm looking forward to contribute to the team's success. I'm looking forward to bring in my knowledge and my skills to contribute to the team's success in this company. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that response. So number one, that was too long. You
Yeah.
had a lot of good content there, but it was too long. You started answering a different question, which I didn't ask. I didn't ask you to tell me about what you do on a day-to-day basis. I didn't ask you, for example, why do you think you're a good fit for this role? Because that is talking about, your skill set in business analysis. I didn't ask, but again, this role, the person you are talking to may not even know what Salesforce means. So all
Okay.
that is like irrelevant information, even though it's good content, but it's not relevant because when you're saying, "Oh, I say Salesforce certified admin," it's like I don't even know what you're talking about. And once you start using very technical jargons, I just get lost and I may not even be listening anymore. So tell me about yourself is tell me about yourself, you, Ade. Of course, you should focus on your professional life, but it should be a very short response. Not very, but it should be a short response. And you want, even if you now want to veer into professional, you want to stay within the things they are looking for. So it was a good thing when you talked about attention to details. Okay, fair enough. But because you have a job description right in front of you, so if you were going to hit on anything at all, you need to hit on any of these 7 things, nothing else. Those are the things, if at all you were going to veer away from, and again, you say you have a master's in business administration. That's also good because this is business analysis. If you have an MBA, that's very good. So you started off very well. That your first initial response, I preferred it, even though you were stuck midway. Like, you come from a background of XYZ. This is who you are. I have a master's in business administration. You said you had over 10 years of industry knowledge, experience. Within the last 3 years, I've been working with a consulting firm that implements Salesforce projects. Salesforce, by the way, because not everybody knows Salesforce. Salesforce, by the way, is a customer relationship, is primarily a customer relationship management SaaS application, right? You don't need to say more than that because they may not even understand. I've had the privilege of working with, you said multiple industry, which is very good because you want to make sure that you are engaging with your audience. Because don't forget, this is not even a Salesforce role. So you can't, in terms of projects, if we're talking primarily about projects, yes, you can say, oh, I was part of this Salesforce transformational project. That's fine. And then you have to explain. But in just asking the question, tell me about yourself, you want to talk about whatever would make you a strong candidate for this role. So you don't go outside, don't bring in any technical jargons. And then tell us about yourself. In my free time outside of work, I love to travel, I love to spend time with family, whatever, whatever. You want to be relatable. So that's why it doesn't have to be too long because there will be other questions for you to respond with the content that you were saying. Most of all those, I do a elicitation of whatever. No, no, no. You've already told us that in your current role, you are a Salesforce business and whatever. So you've told us. You don't need to tell us what business analysis is. That's not the question. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay. All right. Now let me bring up my notes. So now, because of time, so I'm going to focus on areas that are required. Now, then what I can do, I can share with you the document I have for questions because,
Okay, so
by the time I was preparing, I had to consider all of the areas all the way to the bottom, and it's quite a list, as you can see. But
yes,
for now, let's just kick things off by focusing on the key areas that the first 7 areas, let's put it that way. So again, let's still continue on the very basic stuff. So tell me, Adenola, why do you think you're a good fit for this role?
so I believe I'm a good fit for this role because I I have a strong skill in problem solving. I'm good in understanding my client needs and able to translate those needs, those requirements into technical solution. For example, I worked with a e-commerce company and they were I worked for an e-commerce company and they had issues of integrating three platform into one system. So as a result of the main goal is to streamline their communication process. So, and I was able to help in integrating, understanding the business need by gathering the requirement, ensuring those business needs is being able to solve, able to implement. the integration, and also have good communication skills. So I have the ability to communicate with stakeholder, to understand the needs, and being able to translate it to my technical team by creating user stories and acceptance criteria and implementing those solutions.
Okay. So again, good content, but a bit of deviation. So I like the fact that you were able to bring in a project, even though it may not have been an appropriate response, but I like the fact that you have that project in your hand. That will come in very handy. When I say, why do you think you're a good fit for the role? That is where that is where you want to start hitting each of these. I would make reference to 2 or 3 of them so that I don't bore you. One that strikes me the most is integrity. The moment I saw it, I said to myself, this is the kind of job I want to do and the kind of organization that has the same core values like I do. For me, integrity is a way of life. I can't even function if I don't trust the people I work with. So for me to see that as a key pillar of this job role, I was sold out for it as well. Something else that struck me was analytical thinking. In the course of this conversation, I hope that I'll be able to exemplify to you all how, I have been able to position myself as an analytical thinker. Just give me a moment, please.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I've been able to position myself as an analytical thinker because I understand in a role as a business analyst, you are more often than not stuck between business users that more often than not lack technology savviness and folks in technology that are highly technical. And I become the bridge between these two folks. So I need the ability to be able to think and be analytical, to be able to ensure that both sides are on the same page. You see how I'm doing it? All you need to do is
Yes, sir.
just pick 1, 2, or 3. And you don't need to mention project, anything. No, no, no. I'm just saying, why are you a good fit? I don't need to know whether you're eliciting requirements. That's not what I'm asking you. When I want to ask you something relating to a project, what did you do? Then you start answering me. Because you see, why you don't want to start answering with things that are not in line with the question you have been asked is that when they now ask you the question that will demand that answer, it will now be like you're just repeating yourself. And you don't want to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay. Now, so let's now start looking at each of these things one by one. Now, can you provide me an example of how you've provided strategic advice to support a digital business solution? I'll repeat the question. Can you provide me with an example of how you've provided strategic advice to support a digital business solution?
So, thank you for that question. So, how I was able to provide advice, one was as a business analyst, my as a business analyst, my role is to always understand the business need and also provide client solution. Um, um, as a business analyst, my role is to always understand business needs and translate those needs, my client needs, into business solution. So I worked on a project that had to do with data migration, and it has to do with data migration for a e-commerce company. And so it has to do with and the key stakeholder has to do with the sales department. So, and my role for this project was a business analyst, and is to understand those requirements and provide tailored solutions. So, first, my approach was to schedule a one-to-one meeting. First, I identify the key stakeholder for this project. I understand their roles in this project, and these include the project sponsor, the end users of the project, which is the sales department, and also the operations support. So, and then and arrange individual meeting with one of the in person or online to understand their concern and understand their pain point. Why are they moving from data migration? Why are they moving from the old legacy system to the new system? So, and during that time, in terms of understanding the requirement, I used data techniques such as brainstorming, interviews, workshops, to understand their pain point. And I first of all, I identify the stakeholder. I meet with the key stakeholder, and during that meeting, I take a lot of note. I use active listening during the project. I actively listened to them to understand the pain point, and also I also take permission to take notes, and if they're okay with me taking note, I record it, so that way I can go back to make sure everything is being captured correctly. So after on this and during the process, I used visual aids such as process map, just to walk them through the process, so that way they can understand to walk them through the process how the data migration will go about. So how I was able to provide those needs advice to them is first, I actively listen to their needs, understand their pain point. Two, I use visual techniques such as interview and brainstorm, and I shadow with the end user to understand our workflow process. And also I use process map, such as process map to walk them through the step-by-step process on how how the new system will be. So during the how I was able to provide advice was okay. I collaborated. I think I'm going. I'm
So,
blabbing.
so that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Again, I like the fact that you have projects to talk about. That's very good because you're making my life easy. Okay, and that's very good. So always make sure you have projects. So you've mentioned this data migration, you talked about a Salesforce, whatever. Now you want to have at least 3 projects that you can keep, you know, going back and forth with, so that you don't keep referring to the same project. Because again, I don't know what's on the resume you had used to apply. Don't also forget, make sure that whatever you are saying lines up with the resume you applied with. That's very critical, especially realizing that you have applied for this role about a year ago. Right now, there's nothing wrong in you saying things that is not on your resume, but that means you have to ensure you are picturing it in a time frame after your resume. So that if somebody says, oh, because somebody can just say, like I said, it's government, they are very, very by the book. Somebody can say, oh, sorry, that's not on your resume. Now say, oh, yes, that's correct. By the way, you would recall that I had applied for this role about a year ago. So what I'm talking to you right now is something that happened within the last 1 year, full stop. And that answers that question, right? So you just want to make sure that you are owning your resume so that somebody doesn't throw you offside. Make sense?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think what I used to apply for it was Scrum Master.
Yeah. Whatever it is, always just make sure you have a copy of that resume.
Okay.
Yeah. And the good thing is that if there's something you are saying that is not on your resume and somebody says anything, you tell them it's in the role that you are currently on, whatever, so that you don't confuse them and you are not confused as well. Now, coming back to how you responded to the question, not bad, but you didn't stay on point. So always, every time you hear a question, first of all, process that question. Spend about 5 seconds. The question was, can you provide an example of how you've provided strategic advice to support a digital business solution? You started well. You told us what, again, when you are also starting with the project, try to give a very quick synopsis of what the project is. So this was a data migration project. Now, you want to tell us migrating data from a legacy system into a Salesforce CRM, a Microsoft CRM, whatever. Let us know. It gives us context. Oh, okay, this is what you're talking about. Beyond giving us context, it also makes us realize that, oh, okay, this girl has worked on this kind of project. You are selling yourself. Don't just say it like as if you crammed it. You want to say it like as if you did it. So there's no harm in you explaining, but you don't want to take too much time to explain what the project. And you now say that, you know what? In the course of this project, there were various options on how to go about the data migration. We had to come up with a data migration plan. And there were different options that we could take, different methods, different strategy, different options, whatever. However, based on my research and findings online or within the technical community of Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle, whatever the application is, that you did research, you were able to come back to the team and do a demo to tell them why you are suggesting this option to go with. And you deliberated with the team, you all discussed, and you're able to get buy-in. You looked at the pros and the cons vis-a-vis other options. You can throw in a few things. You don't need to start going into the nitty-gritty because other questions may require that. They may now say, okay, how exactly did you do X, Y, Z? Then you go into that level of detail. Always try to answer your questions with the principle of do more with less. Even when you have more to say, try to be quiet about it until somebody asks you for more, right? When somebody asks you for more, then you give them more. That's what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense now.
Okay. Now, let me see. Now, let's go to the next question. Okay, we have 2 minutes, 32 seconds. Let's see if you can. Okay, describe a situation where you had to maintain integrity under pressure.
So, can I describe a situation
where you had to maintain integrity under pressure?
where I have to maintain integrity under pressure? So, as a business analyst, integrity is a core value to me, and it helps me to be ethical, responsible, and deliver high quality product, quality service to my client. So, a situation happened in which we had a tight deadline, and I encountered a situation in which one of my developer during a sprint, I encountered a situation where one of the developer in my team didn't follow the QA process, the quality assurance process.
The link disconnected, but I was listening till it disconnected, and I think, to be honest, I think that's one of the best responses I've heard tonight. You may not know, but you hit the nail on the head. You are talking about integrity, right? And you said the developer pushed code to production without doing the needful, and you could either have just shook it under the rug and let it pass, but you know what? Because of integrity, you decided to go speak to the lead developer to address the issue. And that for me is good because that's integrity. Integrity is what would you do when nobody is looking? That's integrity, right? And you know that, and you because you were a stickler for the rules, you are looking at, compliance, to procedure, set procedures, and those procedures were put in place for exactly the same reason, to avert any unforeseen circumstances, so that if something would happen afterwards, it will be on record that you actually called it out. and you were professional about it. It's not like you are speaking ill about your colleague or your co-worker, but you are just saying that a procedure was not followed and you called it out. So that's very good. Okay?
So,
Right. Okay, let's go to the next question. And, like I said again, it's always good to throw in projects. But what I don't want you to do is, except if the question asks into details about the project, you first of all, you identify the project, you introduce it, tell us what the project is about, tell us your role on that project, and then you now tell us, what you did in order for you to answer the question that was asked. So it's always in that order. Introduce the project. Tell us your role, because you could have different roles on different projects, right? But I know this is more like a business analyst role. So, and again, it all depends on the question. You may want to say, oh, I recall a project I was on and XYZ, the project, and my role on that project was the role of a Scrum Master. I was a business analyst on that project. I was a functional consultant on that project. I was a project lead on that project. And then you keep answering the question. And it's also always good for you to be identifying roles within projects. You had mentioned something like that. You said you had a 9-man project, a 7-man project, you had a QA, you had a developer, you had, I would say, don't try to stay away from acronyms. Not everybody understands all those acronyms. So I had a tester, I had a software tester, a quality assurance analyst. I had a software developer, I had a functional consultant, I had a lead developer, I had a technical consultant. I had a team of 5. There was, a development team made up of blah, blah, blah. Try to stay away from numbers, because if you say I have 7 and you mention 5 people, it doesn't make you look good. Somebody can be counting, right?
okay.
I had a development team made up of a software tester, a developer, a lead consultant. Nobody will come and say, there's 2 more people that you didn't mention. You didn't tell them how many people. If you say
Yes,
how
sir.
many people, you better be sure you mention all those people. So that's why it's always better not to say 5, 7. Don't put numbers. I had a
Yes, sir.
strong development team. I had a high-performing team made up of or comprising of. And then whatever you say is whatever you say. Nobody will come and say, oh, you forgot somebody. Okay? All right,
Yes.
next question. How do you ensure that your decisions are well informed and evidence-based?
To ensure that your decisions are well informed.
And evidence-based. If you recall, let me help you. We
Yes,
talked
sir.
about, you kept talking about that your data migration project, and I mentioned something. So again, when you were talking about the data migration project, you needed to have told us, were you migrating data from a legacy platform to a state-of-the-art platform? State-of-the-art platform can be Oracle, SAP. It can be Salesforce, Microsoft, whatever that is. You needed to have told us. Now, the good thing, if you had told us, is now you can now say, would you recall the data migration project I was talking about earlier? In a bid for me to ensure that my decisions are well informed and evidence-based, I had to go into the technical community with regards to that software product. In this case, it was Salesforce. I am a member of the Salesforce Trailblazer community, which is a community of Salesforce professionals on a global scale. So when you are deploying any Salesforce artifact or product, one of the places you want to go to be able to exemplify if this has been done before, and most likely yes, what were the pitfalls? What were the key things that one needed to look out for? And what was the pathway to a successful implementation or deployment? So I was able to go into the Salesforce Trailblazer community, and I was able to read up documentation in line with what we were about to do on that data migration project. And I was able to understand what was the industry best practice from Salesforce, being the software product owner. And I was able to bring that research into the project team, and I was able to demo it to the project team for them to understand this is the way we needed to go about it. And by doing this, I was able to get the buy-in of both business and the technical teams. Don't forget you are a BA, right? So you always
Yes,
want to put yourself in the middle, so that, because you want to be believable. Every time you are talking, you want to be believable. You know exactly where you sit. You are a BA, right? And so in this case, you're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the data migration. No. You are just saying this is the way to go, because the developer or the data migration person would also know. But you are just saying, let's do it this way based on what the software product, the product owner is saying, in this case, Salesforce. Does that make sense?
yes, sir.
Okay. Now, can you provide an example of how you used analytical thinking to solve a complex problem? That's a little bit
You take it to solve a
yeah.
complex problem. Okay. Thank you for that question. So how as a BA, my I think I as a BA, there was a project I worked on that has to do with implementation of Outlook and SharePoint integration in a CRM platform. So the situation happened in which the administrative staff have issues in terms of switching across multiple platforms. They have over 500 emails. So when receiving the email, they have to switch to another platform. So actually record manually enter the data. So and it was prone to manual error, and it wasn't workflow efficient. So one thing I had to do is one, I shadow with the administrative staff to see how the workflow, their process is, and also to understand the pain points. So and how I was able to analyze the how I was able to analyze how I was able to solve the problem is one, I drove into research first to know what is the pain point, how will this platform being integrated together, because one of the business needs is to integrate those three platforms together to streamline communication and also to improve customer service. So I drove into research by researching those people that have done this kind of integration, because this integration was fairly new to me, because I've worked on different integration as a BA, but integrating three system into one was fairly new to me. So and also I looked at the pros and cons if we integrate this platform together by searching it online, my Trailblazer community, those people that those I made a research, those people that have worked on those projects together. And also I collaborated with my technical team, because as a BA, the way I understand the technical aspect is different from the way a developer will understand it. So I also analyzed, I brought in my suggestion that okay, we want to do it this the main goal is to make the project to be bi-directional. So like for the Outlook, for the Outlook integration, the administration want to be able to see what is an Outlook in Salesforce and what is a SharePoint, which is the document storage into Salesforce, not just not switching multiple platform. So first I analyzed it by one. I collaborated with the technical team first. We started working on the Outlook integration first before we moved into the SharePoint integration. So we analyzed that by looking for how we can do the AP the integration using different integration tools, which include the Microsoft Graph to integrate the Outlook to SharePoint, the Outlook to Salesforce. And also we came up we were able to analyze and came up with a solution for the SharePoint by using File Connect to connect the document into Salesforce. So I was able to analyze the situation by collaborating and also understanding my client need and also making research, and we were able to implement a solution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that response. It was okay, just that it's a bit muddled up, but if only you were able to kind of gather your thoughts in a more succinct fashion, it will have been better. And I know that comes with experience, because what you are saying makes a lot of sense. You are talking about what one thing you could throw in there was the concept of single sign-on, that you wanted a situation whereby whether you are signed up into the Salesforce CRM or you are signed up into Outlook or SharePoint, you didn't need to be going back and forth. You can just stay in one application and you are able to access artifacts within any of those applications. So what the end users wanted to do in order to be more efficient at their job, instead of switching between the CRM application. So in this case, what you want to do is, you first of all told us at the beginning, is Salesforce, Outlook, my SharePoint. Again, explain it very well, right? Salesforce being the CRM platform for customer management, relationship management, Outlook being an email client application, and SharePoint being Microsoft document repository. Those are three things done. Okay. Now, what the business need in this case was that instead of people having to be ping-ponging between the three apps, the business, who most of them are use Salesforce as one of their key day-to-day application, they wanted a situation whereby they can still monitor their email and utilize documents within Microsoft SharePoint without having to switch from one application to the other. This was the business need. In my role as a business analyst, I had to come up with, the methodology to implement this project. As part of my research, I was able to find out that these are the things that we needed to do. And once we were able to agree between the business users and the technology team, right, then everybody got to work. So, so what I'm just saying is that if people are not okay with your response, in terms of, you don't need to tell me all the stories, because again, be careful. The more you say, the more holes people can put into what you are saying, right? The longer you talk, the more people would either, the one extreme is that they get bored, maybe if they don't understand what you are saying, or two, then you are giving them ample time to ask you more questions. You don't want that. You want to stay somewhere in the middle. Now, if somebody is not convinced with what you have said, let them ask a follow-up question, and then you respond. Is that making sense?
Yeah,
But
it
what
makes
you want
sense.
to always do is the concept of projects. You want to come across. So again, I like the way you are bringing projects, but because you may not have that that power of articulation to put them together very well. So what you don't want to do is to be talking a lot. Okay. So number one, when you mentioned the project, you said sales and service. That doesn't mean anything. You said an ERP. You didn't tell us what ERP. You see, these are little things. And you know why I want to hinge on them is because you want to, again, depending on what you put in your resume, right? But you want to build a persona for yourself that is larger than life. You want them to see you like, man, this girl, we would really be lucky if we get this girl, because it looks like she has worked on not just small size projects, but medium and large size projects. That's why I always hinge on project, because in every establishment, especially within the 21st century software development delivery, you want to position yourself like, I've worked on this project, I've worked on that project, I've been part of that initiative. Because that's what we now say, wow, 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 right? So that's why I'm saying that even just introducing the project and making it look like these complex projects, but you're just going to now explain a small part of it, but it's exposure. Okay, let me give you a very simple example. Can you imagine somebody in the village in Africa saying so many things about, oh, how he went to Europe? He's not even been to the airport, oh, but he's saying how he went to Europe, he traveled to Italy, and he saw the Colosseum, he visited the Vatican City, and all of that, and all of that. If nobody tells you that he's not even been to the airports, would you believe?
No.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the way you need to position yourself. You need to say things that will make people say, wow, wow. Now, I get it. Like I said, even if you cannot articulate it very well, but when you are mentioning the project, mention the project like as if, it's a mega project. Like you say, ERP is a big word to throw out there. ERP is big. But the way you did it like as if, I just heard it from somewhere, ERP. You say this was, again, depending which application if you are not sure, then you don't say it, right? But if you are sure, then why not? You say it exactly what it is. So that's what, because when you said sales and service, I don't know what sales and service, is it Microsoft, is it Oracle? We don't know. So this was a
But
sales force.
can I use like, if I've talked on a previous project before, I can recall that project and use it
Yes,
on
you
that.
can. Yes, you can. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's always good if you can flip between 2 or 3 projects.
Okay.
That's why you want to have those projects to hand and be able to speak to them end to end, so that based on any question, you will now be the one to say, okay, which project would fit into this question that I'm being asked. You bring it. And you don't want to keep on. So let's say you have 3 projects, 1, 2, 3. If the first question you use 1, second question you use 2, third question you use 3, fourth question you go back to 1. You want to do it like that. It's not like you use 3, you use 3, you use 3. It will be like, is this the only project you've worked on? You don't want to come across that way, right? You just say, this brings to mind a project I worked on, in a previous role. You don't need to tell them where you worked on it, in a previous role, but it better be on your resume, right? Again, I tell people, write projects on your resume. So if it's on your resume, then nobody's even confused. It's on your resume. That's what I do. In every role that I'm in every organization, I write the key projects that I was part of. So even if you were to ask me a question from my resume, you can easily say, oh, Mike, while you were at Government of Alberta, I see that you worked on a Microsoft CRM transformation project. Can you tell me about that? It's straightforward. And for me, because I wrote it there, that means I better would have prepared for it. So if you ask it of me, I'm ready to give you a fantastic response because I put it there. And you don't ask me something that is not on my resume, right? If you ask me something that is not on my resume, it's a bit of a offside. I'll be like, I can even challenge you and say, I'm sorry. You know, I don't understand the relevance of what you're asking me right now, right? You can't just throw something and say, have you worked on Tableau? This is not an interview for Tableau, an interview of a BA. So I didn't put on my resume that I know Tableau, right? And they may say, oh, I'm just asking. Okay, I've not worked with Tableau, or I've worked slightly with Tableau, but not extensively. But I'm a quick learner. Did you mention it just because Tableau is one of the tools that you use in your organization? And the person will answer you yes or no. And then regardless of the response, whether it's yes or no, you now answer and say, if it's yes, oh, great. Then, I'm up for learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I don't see any reason why I cannot take on Tableau. If they say no, oh, okay, but why do you ask? So it's a conversation, right? So it's just, again, the ability to do more with less. Always remember that, the ability to do more with less. Now, when you're talking about prioritizing clients' needs, I gave you something because, again, go back to project management 101. the three key pillars of measuring the success of a project is time. Did we deliver this project in a timely fashion? We don't have unlimited time. 2, budget. Did we deliver it on budget or within budget plus contingency? We don't have unlimited budget, so we can't just spend $1 million above what we planned for. No, nobody's going. Somebody has to pay for it. Then 3 is the quality. Did we deliver it with the expected quality, high quality? So those are the 3 pillars of measuring the success of a project: time, budget, and quality. So when you are trying to say you are prioritizing, and that's why I kind of gave you that teaser, that you are prioritizing client need, you want to be able to say, oh, you know what? Even though we understood the conflicting needs of the clients, but time wouldn't allow us to put both of them into the same sprint. You can go with that to say, so we have to engage with one of the stakeholders to say that we can't fit this into this sprint, but we will make it priority in the next sprint. That's one way to answer it. And then 2, it may be budget. You may now say that, you know what, we just realized that the planned budget to implement that particular deliverable for one of the stakeholders overrun our estimates. So because of that, even though from a task point of view, it was prioritized, but when we realized that we needed additional budget based on new information coming to us, then we had to reprioritize. But you needed to explain to the client, because we are talking about user satisfaction. You can't just say, I deprioritize your need and I just expect you to be happy about it. No, but you explain, right? So that's budget. And then you can talk of quality. In this case, quality may not really apply because quality is at the very end, right? That everybody will say, oh, this thing it works pretty well and all of that. So you want to look at it from that perspective as well. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, next. How do you ensure effective communication with different stakeholders?
How do I ensure effective communication with different stakeholders? So, effective communication helps as with different stakeholder helps me to understand their pain points and being able to deliver high quality result, and also be able to translate their business pain point into technical solution. So, how as a BA, how I was able to effective communicate with my client was with different stakeholders was when we moving data migration, moving from an old legacy system to a new legacy system, a new CRM platform. We're moving from Oracle to Salesforce. So, and the key stakeholder involved in this project was the sales department. And one how I was able to effective communicate with them is one understanding my audience. First, I understand my audience. I know that the sales department, their main focus is the end user, not the technical details. So I use terminologies that relate to daily experience, what they can relate to. For example, I explained data migration as moving from an old house to a new house, packing belongings, and those belongings are intact. Those belongings that you move from the old house are intact to the new house. First, I understand my audience. I use metaphor. I don't. I because I know no the technical background. I don't use metaphor. I don't use word like automation. I use word like, oh, the workflows process. I use words that are relatable to them, and also active listening to. The way I'm able to actively communicate with them is to active listening, like listening to their needs, understand what they actually want. And also I use visual aids too. So explain, to communicate with them. So in the terms of data migration, I use the process flow map to show them the journey on how, okay, this old system, we're moving from this old migration to this new system. So the flow chart shows the sales department or the step-by-step process. These build confidence to the sales force, to the sales department team, that okay, all that data is being entered. And also I use demo too. I create like a prototype on real-time thing, that real-time project. I create a demo in real time to show that this is actually how the data migration is going to be. This is how the system is going to be when those when the system is the old system, the old system is moved to the new system. So I use I demo them, so it actually creates confidence in them and ensures that and also build trust, and they're carried along with this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the challenge, so again, good content, but
Sure.
not very good delivery.
Mm.
This is one of the questions that does not have any technicality in it at all. This is a literal question. How do you ensure effective communication? And I will just pick the good content because we had good content. So number one, you identify your stakeholders. You can put them into two categories. Who are your key stakeholders? The business and technology. That's at a very high level. You don't need to go further than that. Business people, they are not technically savvy. Technology people, they are very technical. They don't like to go into the details of stuff, right? Just tell me what I need to do, and that's okay. So these are two different audiences, right? And you focused on, okay, so you say, okay, the business users, because they're not technical, right? So you want to make presentations or demo that would contain the kind of, wordings that they can relate with, like day-to-day words, day-to-day examples, analogies. You mentioned it. That's all you need to say. You don't even need to go into data migration or that. No, you don't need all that. We're talking
Okay.
about communication, communication tools, communication approach. So for people like that, you want to do a PowerPoint presentation, right? Now, when it comes to the technical stakeholders, don't forget again, you're a BA. You want to draw a process flow. So you want to use Lucy charts, you want to use Microsoft Visio, right? You want to be able to draw that process flow so that they will know that, okay, from this step to that step, this is the expectation. Do you need to send an email at this step? Do you need to, to throw an error at this step if something goes wrong? So for people like the technical folks, they will need a process map so that they know exactly what the process should look like. Right? So what you're just saying here is that for the non-technical people, you want to be very literal. For the technical people, you want to work with them with the kind of things they are used to. And like you said, process map. So you had the ingredients, but again, you were throwing in a lot of things that were not necessary. So always remember, do more with less. Do more with
Yes.
less. Okay? All right.
Yes.
Now, describe a time when you identified the source of a problem and implemented a solution.
Describe a time when you identify the source of a
It's
problem.
like you identified the root cause of a problem and then you implemented a solution.
So so there was a
Right?
situation.
I can
I
even help you with this one because I want
Okay.
us to be able to go to something else before this guy runs out. So remember
Okay.
that you had sent me a write-up some time ago when you had responded to one of Baba's questions about a project that you had something that was unexpected, and I think it had to do with data. Do you
Yeah.
remember? So that would be
Yeah.
a good response for this one because you were able to get to the root cause and you were able to meet with stakeholders, you did whatever you said you did, and you were able to solve the problem. That would be a good way to respond to this. Do you remember that response?
And I think I can't.
You
I
can't.
need to do it.
Yeah, you had sent me a document where you documented that response, and I can send it back to you.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, because I have it and I actually do use it for other people too. So, but again, so I just wanted us to have a bit of time to kind of so what I've done is ask questions around these 7 key areas. That's what I've done. And this last one was on um, problem solving, right? So I've asked questions on each of these. Now, that doesn't mean that's the only question, but at least I wanted you to understand that you needed to be able to speak to each of these 7 areas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Absolutely.
7 is problem solving. Anyway,
So,
yeah. Now, so that's that. Now, I have a document here that has those questions and the way to answer them, as in at least an idea of how to answer them. Now, this is why when I tell people that, in fact, I wanted to make it a rule that if anybody wants to book my time, that they should book 2 sessions straight up. Because more often than not, a session is usually not enough. Time just flies, right? Anyway, but that's fine. Now, so I have that document, and I also have a few other things in that document just to give you an idea. So there are questions and how to answer them. So this is the JD. So all of those things, these are the required ones, right? And the questions now follow for each of them. These are the questions. So these are the questions I was asking you. This is a guide on how to respond. Now, this guide, I like it because it gives you a very succinct way on how to respond, right? So I will send it to you, and you can go away and go and make this something that you want to ingest between today and the whole of tomorrow. And
okay.
again, come back, as in you now use your examples with the way they're asking. So, for example, describe a situation where you had to maintain integrity. That's why I said your response was very good. During a critical phase of an IT project, I was asked to expedite certain procedures to meet a deadline, which could have compromised security protocols. I upheld my commitment to integrity by refusing to bypass the procedure. So you said somebody did it and you had to call it out. That's good. You don't even need to mention so much of the project itself. But if you want to make yourself look good, you can say, oh, this brings to mind a project I was part of. It was a Salesforce migration project, was whatever, and my role on that project was that of a system business analyst. I realized that, like you said, the QA, blah, 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 and that's it. You don't need to tell us so many stories about, my actions preserved the project's integrity and upheld public trust. Again, these are all taken from the JD. You always want to go back to the JD, right? So I'm going to send you this, all the 17. So all we did was the first 7, which were the required ones. These are the
Okay.
optional ones. We couldn't even get to it, right? So you can take this away, and this has less than a minute. So let me